Hello everyone, I am Rafael Nunez and I am your cybersecurity mentor. Today, we're going to be discussing transitioning from the military into the private sector. If you're a veteran watching, I'd like to say thank you on behalf of me and my family for your service to our country. Now, to cover this topic, we're going to break it down into three categories: planning, building a resume, and compensation. When it comes to planning, there's a lot we can cover, but I'd like to break this down into three key action steps. The first one, self-assessment. Assessing your skills. Where are you at right now? What have you accomplished? What are you certified in? You need to take inventory to know what skills you're bringing to the market and where you fit into that big picture. One really good way to do this is by creating a LinkedIn profile. You'll be accomplishing networking, which is a key step of job searching. But additionally, when you're building your profile in LinkedIn, there's an option for selecting skills and certifications you have. A lot of these you may not have considered, but you need to be generous in selecting everyone that applies. Now let's talk about certifications. You may already have some certifications, maybe you don't. But I do know that some career fields within the military across all branches have requirements for being certified or courses you need to take. Is there a course that you can leverage taking now while it's paid for, while you're still in, that may make you more competitive out there in the job market? Researching employers, potential employers of like where you would want to work could be very important. You see, some of these large employers have built extraordinary programs around onboarding veterans like yourself, and they can help in that transitioning process to position you and ensure your success in your early stages of being in the private sector. Now, when it comes to building your resume, the thing to understand is that your resume needs to be translated. There are services and individuals that do this for a living. They'll take your resume, polish it up, make it look really good. However, if you choose not to subscribe to one of these services and you want to get started on your own, here's some things to consider. Avoid acronyms at all costs. Avoid terminology that is only relevant for the military and DoD. Think about your industry in general terms as not knowing anything or much about the military. You can still highlight your accomplishments and everything you did, all the awesome projects you were part of, which makes me think about missions, operations. All those campaigns can be translated into projects. So that's one example. In terms of, say you led infrastructure at a base, and you may have it that way in your performance report. Led infrastructure for the base 24/7, whatever the case may be. Maybe that sounds something like managed infrastructure for over 13,000 end users, and it encompassed these technologies. You see, you're highlighting what's important to the business. In that one sentence, you're describing your expertise for those technologies, your leadership ability because you led that for the entire base, which is the equivalent of over 13,000 users. You see where I'm going with this? So there are different ways to translate it, but that's the main gist. Now, one simple, kind of easy way to also help with your resume: reach out to a buddy that has transitioned already. Reach out to a friend who you know is a veteran that might have served in your capacity, in your career field. Maybe they were stationed with you, and ask them to look at their resume. Right? If they're comfortable to share with you, it's not like you're taking their accomplishments and putting it in yours. You're simply borrowing the format and you're learning how to translate specific accomplishments into a language that makes sense in the private sector. Now, let's talk about compensation. Extremely important. Now, as service members, we often tend to downplay our accomplishments because we think about it in terms of, well, I was only this rank, I only did this, I only made this much money, I've never worked out in the private sector. But the truth of the matter is, you've received world-class training, you've been certified, you've led folks. From the moment you got to basic training, you got extreme exposure to accountability, leadership, and integrity. Now, you may be new to an industry like healthcare or retail or the financial sector, but you're not new to those technologies, and you're not new to working under pressure. So it's best to assess the market and what they're willing to pay for your skill sets than to assess based on what you're getting paid today and what kind of pay bump it represents. You'd be surprised to know that you may get a pay raise that may be the equivalent of 40, 30, 50% higher than what you're making now. Which, by the way, when considering your current pay rate, don't just look at your base salary. Look at your overall total compensation. So look at your base salary plus housing allowance plus healthcare. It's childcare provided. Add that in as well. And only then you can compare that when trying to realize if you're getting a pay raise or if you're making a lateral move. These are all things to consider. The most important being research the market based on state, based on industry, and based on your existing qualifications. What are you worth out there, the real world? Ask around, ask for pay ranges. When you're on LinkedIn, reach out to some folks and say, you know what, this may be somewhat of a private question. I don't need to know how much you make, but can you give me a rough idea of where the range stands for a SOC 1 analyst or a level 2 governance resource or even a manager or a leader? Which brings me to my last topic. Though that terminology of manager, senior director, or lead doesn't translate well all the time. You are a leader by trade. You're a leader. You've written up performance reports. You've led folks throughout the years. So by all means, you are a leader. If you consider this video useful, please consider liking and subscribing and share it with family and friends who may benefit from it. I would love for every service member to have a successful transition, potentially with a job awaiting upon separation or retirement. Thank you so much for watching.